In the show, Charlie has a teal blue Kanken backpack, and I thought, I need one. This reading wrap-up kind of went in a polar opposite direction, but I hope you don't mind. Anyway. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a very exciting wrap-up because I read 13 books in April, which is really unheard of for me because I have been in a really big reading slump for the past few months, and April was the month that really just my reading slump ended and I dove right into so many amazing books, and I'm really excited to tell you guys about them. I don't often do wrap-ups on my channel, usually because I talk about the books that I'm reading in all of my other videos, like vlogs and things, but I thought that maybe doing wrap-ups again would be fun, just because then I like them. They're capsule videos and I can just tell you guys about books that maybe I forget to include in a vlog or something. So I read 13 amazing books, some classics, some middle grade, some YA, a mix of different things, which I really loved all of them, so I'm excited to tell you about them. And I think I'm going to just go slightly in order of how I read them. Some of them I don't have physical copies of because I did listen to audiobooks as well. So I'm just going to start with the book series that I read the whole thing. So they're standalone books, but they all go together. So they are by Kate DiCamillo. Kate DiCamillo is one of the writers that really got me out of my reading slump. I love middle grade. I write middle grade. I illustrate for children as well as not for children, for adults. I illustrate for everyone, but Kate DiCamillo's books are beautifully illustrated by many different illustrators, and these actually aren't illustrated, but her as a writer is really influential for me. She as a writer is really influential for me, and I just love her books. I grew up reading them. The Tale of Despero because of Winn-Dixie, The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane, so many amazing books that I love by her. And this is one of her most recent series. So it starts with Raimi Nightingale, and then it goes to Louisiana's Way Home, and then Beverly right here. So we start with Raimi Nightingale. Raimi Nightingale is about, of course, Raimi, our main character, and she is dealing with the fact that her father just left their family, and she thinks that winning a beauty pageant will help bring him back. And so she sets out to try and win this beauty pageant in Central Florida, and it is a really sweet story about friendship and family and acceptance and figuring out, I guess, the struggles of growing up and dealing with issues, not really issues, but challenges in the family, and how friendships can really help that. So in Raimi Nightingale, we have Raimi befriends two girls, Louisiana and Beverly, and they eventually get their two separate novels, which I think is wonderful. So you don't have to read them in order, but I definitely recommend reading them in order just because it will make more sense and it is more chronological, which I loved Raimi Nightingale. I don't know which one is my favorite, honestly. I really loved Louisiana's Way Home, but I also really loved Raimi Nightingale, so I don't know. They are wonderful, wonderful books. I feel like my feelings towards middle grade is that they are for everyone, even though these are for younger readers. I think adults can get so much out of reading middle grade, especially Kate DiCamillo, because she deals with very heavy emotional topics, and often a lot of people ask her, why do you write such sad books? Why do you write such emotional books, especially for children? And she says that because why not? You know, kids are in the same world that adults are in, and they see what we see, and they're much more aware of things than I think adults realize. And the way that she captures these heavier topics in books meant for children is, I think, absolutely beautiful, and I just highly, highly recommend. Louisiana's Way Home, of course, follows Louisiana, and then Beverly right here obviously follows Beverly, and they each have their own story, and I love that we get these two side characters in the first book, but Kate DiCamillo does give us an opportunity to hear their own stories in separate books, which I think was beautiful. So I absolutely adored these. Kate DiCamillo, like I said, one of my favorite writers. I cannot recommend her books more. Like, all of them, absolutely all of them. And then the next one that I want to talk about is right here. And this one is The Beatrice Prophecy, also by Kate DiCamillo. This one is illustrated by Sophie Blackall, she is an incredible, incredible illustrator. I mean, how beautiful is this book? It is absolutely stunning. And the end papers are gorgeous, which are also designed by Sophie Blackall. So this book is quite complicated I think a little bit complicated to explain. So I am going to read the inside flap because I don't want to give too much away, because this book is very whimsical and magical and kind of unlike anything that I've read. So there is one creature that the monks of the Chronicles of Sorrowing fear above all others, and Swellica the goat. The monks fear her sharp teeth and her hard head and her wily ways. And so imagine Brother Edic's terror when he goes to feed Swellica one morning and finds a child in the pen with the demon goat. The child does not know where she came from. She does not know who her people are. She remembers only one thing, her name, Beatrice. The king's men, however, know who the child is, and they are searching for her. Our main character, Beatrice, has this ability that no one else has besides monks. And it kind of acts as a superpower, and that superpower is the ability to read. No one except monks are able to read and write, but Beatrice, for some reason, knows how, and that makes her a very big threat to the kingdom that she lives in. And it's just an incredible story of the power of reading, the power of words, and I love how even though this deals with some magical elements, this is a story inside of a story, but it is reading and writing as a superpower, and it's beautifully done. This book is just absolutely perfect, and I couldn't love it any more than I already do, and I highly, highly, highly recommend you read it. Again, perfect for any age. I really think adults could get so much out of this story. There are really dark themes that are gorgeously executed and discussed, and it's filled with stunning illustrations. I'll read the first page because it's so beautiful. It is written in the Chronicles of Sorrowing that one day there will come a child who will unseat a king. The prophecy states that this child will be a girl. Because of this, the prophecy has long been ignored. And what I love about this book as well is it is very empowering for young girls, empowering for women, and I think having those themes in literature for young girls is so important, and I really think that Kate DiCamillo and Sophie Blackall do an incredible job at making an empowering story, and the illustrations that accompany them. It's just I just love her style. It is so whimsical and beautiful, and this was a beautiful, beautiful book that I loved very, very much. The next book I actually don't have with me. It is on my bookshelf, but Willow is sleeping on my lap, and she's not snoring for once. If you don't know, if you're new here, I always film when my dog is napping, and she is a lap dog. She does not like sleeping in her bed. She likes being with me 24/7. And so usually she's snoring, and you can hear it really loudly in my videos sometimes, but she's not snoring, and I don't want to wake her up. So the next book is Barnaby Rudge. Barnaby Rudge by Charles Dickens. I read this for the Dickens versus Tolstoy debate that I do with my best friend Emma from her YouTube channel Emmy, and I did not love this book. There is a whole video discussion about it, so I'm not going to talk about it too much here. I will link to the video in the cards and in the description. I didn't love it. I love Charles Dickens as a writer, but this book really fell flat for me for some reason, and you can hear all that I have to say about it in the debate that we filmed. So yes, I will link that. The next book I listened to on audiobook, and that is Where the Red Fern Grows by Wilson Rawls. And I actually remember in middle school people were reading this in their English classes, but for some reason, I never read Where the Red Fern Grows in any of my classes in school. And I remember everyone saying that it made them cry and that it was so sad, and it's about this main character, this boy, and his two hunting dogs, and they live in the wilderness, and it's really about the relationship between this young boy and his two dogs, and I know that everybody said that the ending was horrible, and so I kind of had a feeling if it's a story about dogs, I think I know where the ending is going, so I never wanted to read it. But then I have been trying to read all of the classic middle grades because that is the genre that I write for, and I really want to take in as much of that media, especially the classics, the ones that are so beloved. I want to experience for myself. So I listened to Where the Red Fern Grows, and I loved it. I loved it so much. It definitely made me cry at the end, especially because I was just talking about my dog Willow. I will take a picture of her so that you guys can see. She looks so cute. Anyway, I will pop that in the video. But yes, so I didn't want to read this book because I knew that the ending would make me cry, and it did, but I loved it. It's a beautiful exploration of the bond between someone and their dogs, whether it's a grown-up, because the dogs do have, they create ties and bonds with the boy's family as well as the boy himself, and how animals can really change your life and how dogs can really change your life. I loved it, so I thought that it was great. I haven't been sharing star ratings just because I have like a love-hate relationship with star ratings. If you want my star ratings, they are on my Goodreads, which is always linked down below. Anyway, that's kind of a random side note, but let me know what you think about star ratings. Do you like doing star ratings? I kind of feel like books are so different that it's so hard to compare or set one rating for a book because they're so individually different. Anyway, random side note. The next book I listened to was For Everyone by Jason Reynolds. Jason Reynolds is another middle grade author. I think he's written a YA as well, but I might be mistaken, or if it's just middle grade that he writes for. But anyway, I was watching a bunch of interviews with Kate DiCamillo, and she was talking about Jason Reynolds and how much she admires his writing and how much she loves his books. This is a very, very short book, and I actually listened to it, like I said. So I listened to the narration narrated by Jason Reynolds himself, and it was so beautiful. I love listening to books when they are narrated by the author because I think that they enunciate and speak the way that they intend the words to sound, and I think it's such an authentic way to take in a story besides reading it yourself because you're hearing it the way that the author intended for you to take it in. Anyway, so I don't want to really spoil it. Can you spoil it? I'm just going to read what it says on Goodreads. It says, originally performed at the Kennedy Center for the unveiling of the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial, and later as a tribute to Walter Dean Mayers, this stirring and inspirational poem is New York Times bestselling author and National Book Award finalist Jason Reynolds' rallying cry to the young dreamers of the world. For everyone is just that. For everyone. For every one person, for every one dreamer, but especially for every one kid. The kids who dream of being better than they are, kids who dream of doing more than they almost dare to dream, kids who are like Jason Reynolds, a self-professed dreamer. And it keeps going on, but I think that that's a perfect example of what the book is, of being proud to be a dreamer and what you can do with that. And it's really inspirational, and I thought it was beautifully done, and I loved listening to it, especially because he narrated it himself. So it was really emotive and inspiring, and I'm so happy that I read it. Then the next book that I read was Polikushka by Leo Tolstoy. I read this again for the Dickens versus Tolstoy debate. Polikushka is a short story written, of course, by Tolstoy, and we will be having our debate at some point in the near future. We haven't picked an exact date yet, me and Emma. This is one of Tolstoy's many short stories that have a very strong moral. It discusses themes of trust and thievery and the power of money and what money can do to people, and I guess the results of money. I don't want to, I feel like if I talk about it too much, I'm going to spoil it or say too much because it is a short story. I enjoyed it. I love Tolstoy. He's my favorite writer, but I think I am getting a bit more particular. Tolstoy just understands people so well, and I think when he has something that he wants to put across, he has a moral, he has a lesson that he wants you to learn from all of his stories, and he puts them very plainly, but I don't think in a way where it's phony or in your face too much. I think he just doesn't want to sugarcoat anything and tells you everything honestly, but shows you in a way through characters. He wants to prove a point through the characters that he creates, and I think he does it brilliantly. So love Tolstoy, of course, my favorite writer. So I loved Polikushka. Then the next book that I listened to was In Our Time by Ernest Hemingway. I love Ernest Hemingway. He's another one of my favorite writers, and I really love listening to his audiobooks, or listening to the audiobooks of his works, as well as physically reading it, of course. But I feel like because his language is so blunt and to the point and truthful, that when you read it, it feels like you're speaking to the narrator. You feel like you're speaking to Ernest Hemingway as well. And I think listening to a narration of his work feels like you're listening to him, and so it's just taking away that actually reading it yourself, but I hope that makes sense. So In Our Time is his earliest collection of stories. This also follows, a few of them follows Nick Adams, who is a reoccurring character in a lot of his short stories. I even have a collection of Ernest Hemingway's that's called the Nick Adams Stories, and that's basically a collection of just the stories that have Nick Adams in them. Hemingway's short stories are they're so great. I don't know, I feel like he's one of those writers that people either really get on with his work or really don't. They find charm in it or they don't. I love the charm of Hemingway because I feel like all he is after is to tell the truth about life, the truth about people, and that's exactly what he does. And he doesn't mince his words, he doesn't make it overly flowery, he just tells you how it is, and I really, really appreciate that, and I love that about him. So on the back it says, "This collection of short stories and vignettes marked Ernest Hemingway's American debut and made him famous. When In Our Time was published in 1925, it was praised by Ford Madox Ford, John Dos Passos, and F. Scott Fitzgerald for its simple and precise use of language to convey a wide range of complex emotions, and is earned Hemingway a place beside Sherwood Anderson and Gertrude Stein among the most promising American writers of that period," which is also known as the Lost Generation, which I love. If you want to start reading Ernest Hemingway, I highly, 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 highly recommend you either read, for fiction, A Farewell to Arms, which is my favorite book of his, or A Movable Feast, which is a nonfiction account of his experience in 1920s Paris, with Gertrude Stein and F. Scott Fitzgerald and a bunch of other amazing creatives. It is amazing. Highly recommend. With fiction though, start with A Farewell to Arms. It is amazing. Anyway, let me keep reading. In Our Time contains several early Hemingway classics, including the famous Nick Adams stories, and introduces readers to the hallmarks of the Hemingway style, a lean, tough prose enlivened by an ear for the colloquial and an eye for the realistic that suggests, through the simplest of statements, a sense of moral value and a clarity of heart. Now recognized as one of the most original short story collections in 20th century literature, In Our Time provides a key to Hemingway's later works, which I think is perfectly put, and I love it. So I don't know if I would recommend starting Hemingway with In Our Time. I would say start with A Farewell to Arms, but if you are a Hemingway fan and you haven't read In Our Time, highly recommend it. It is just the epitome of Hemingway. I guess it's so beautiful to see where a writer started. That's what I love about discovering a writer's first works, is seeing where they came from and how they've developed as a writer. So loved In Our Time so much. Then the next book that I read because my friend Scott sent it to me, and it was just perfect timing. I talk about it a lot more also in my recent reading vlog, which is going to be going up after this video, but that is Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. This is my first Kurt Vonnegut. I have been wanting to read this book for ages, and when Scott sent it to me, I thought, you know what? This is perfect timing. I'm just going to pick it up, and it was really on a whim. And I could not be more happy that I have now read this book, because it has become a new all-time favorite. I adored it. I loved it. It is Vonnegut's famous anti-war novel. We're following our main character, Billy Pilgrim, who I love Billy Pilgrim so much. And what I wasn't expecting from Vonnegut was his very philosophical way of writing. He is funny, he is heartbreaking, he is honest, he is imaginative, he is so many different things, and it makes his writing so unique because he has he has lines that make you laugh, he has lines that make you cry, he has lines that really make you think and reevaluate yourself and life in general. It just has so many elements in literature and in writing that I appreciate and that I admire, and I could not be more happy to have read this book. So part of this story is Billy Pilgrim. He travels back and forth in time in his memory, in his mind, and it's kind of representing his PTSD from being a prisoner of war. This is also about the bombing in Dresden. Yes, the firebombing of Dresden. It's Billy Pilgrim's Odyssey through time, reflecting the mythic journey of our fractured lives as we search for meaning in what we are afraid to know, which is what the back says. And one of the places that he time travels to, or I guess travels to, is outer space to these Tralfamadore, which is run by these aliens called Tralfamadorians. And what I love is that he takes these Tralfamadorians and explores things that are normal to humans, but puts them in a way that questions why we do things that we do. And I love, absolutely love that in literature. Another book that does that beautifully is The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. We get a lot of the characters that are not earthlings questioning the things that humans do and asking why it's done that way, and it really makes you reevaluate why we do those things ourselves. And the Tralfamadorians do that here. And so Billy Pilgrim is asking them, why me? Like, why just me? Why did you take me? Why did you choose me? So Billy licked his lips, thought a while, inquired at last, why me? That is a very earthling question to ask, Mr. Pilgrim. Why you? Why us, for that matter? Why anything? Because this moment simply is. Have you ever seen a bug trapped in amber? Yes, Billy in fact had a paperweight in his office which was a blob of polished amber with 3 ladybugs embedded in it. Well, here we are, Mr. Pilgrim, trapped in the amber of this moment. There is no why. I love that. Well, here we are, Mr. Pilgrim, trapped in the amber of this moment. There is no why. We just are. It just is this way, and we just have to basically accept it. And I love that imagery, that metaphor of we are just bugs trapped in the amber of this moment. I think that's really not what I was expecting from Vonnegut. I heard so many different things about this book, and it exceeded all of my expectations. I loved it. Highly recommend everybody read it. And I can't wait to read more from Vonnegut in the future. So incredibly happy that I read this book. Then the last books that I have to tell you guys about, I'm going to go on a huge ramble in this video and in my recent reading vlog, so I hope you guys don't mind. I don't even know how to begin talking about this because okay, when I love something, this is fun fact about Carolyn. When I love something, I get really obsessive about it, like not in a bad way, in a good way. It just, when something brings me a lot of joy, when I'm really passionate about something, I get really invested in it, and I learn about it in different ways. I look for different media, I watch videos about it, I do a bunch of things just to not only take it in one medium. Anyway, that has been one of my favorite graphic novels that I read in 2020 has become a TV show, and that is Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. So I don't have the first book here because I lent it to my sister. I made my sister and her fiance watch the recent TV show that just came out on Netflix because I have fallen head over heels in love with that show. I already loved the graphic novels, so I was so incredibly excited for the show. I had such high hopes. I knew Alice, the creator of Heartstopper, and her amazing works of YA literature. I knew that she was working really closely on the show, so I had very high hopes for how faithful of an adaptation it would be, and it was more than perfect. It is more than perfect. It adds on to the graphic novels. It has its own charm, but it also has the charm of the graphic novels. Everything about it is perfect. And so I have been obsessively infiltrating my life with anything Heartstopper. Let me just say this right off the bat. I don't really like graphic novels. They've never really been my thing. I don't read a lot of YA literature. I mainly read classics, modern classics, and middle grade. And YA is kind of that in-between ground that it's really hit or miss for me, more miss than hit, so I kind of stay away from it. But Alice Oseman, I don't know, something about her books, something about her writing hits me right in the middle, the bullseye of my heart. that is where she hits me. And her books are just perfect in my opinion. And her writing is perfect, and just her characters are perfect, everything about it. The only word I can think of is perfect. I'm so excited to talk to you about these books because what I love about my channel and the fact that I have people to talk to about the things that I love is that because I don't love graphic novels and because I don't love YA literature, when I do, I'm really excited and I'm so grateful that I get to tell you guys about it. And maybe if you also don't love graphic novels and don't love YA, this could be something that can bring you a lot of joy the way that it's brought me a lot of joy, and it can, I guess, expand your horizons into that genre that maybe you thought you couldn't get into previously, which is exactly what it did for me. So I'm going to hold up the second volume because I don't have the first volume because, like I said, I lent it to my sister, who I knew was going to love it. I knew she's not a big reader. Because they're graphic novels, I told her, I was like, Claire, you have to read it because it's all pictures. She is reading it now and she loved the show, and then she was watching it, and she lives with her fiance, and he was kind of half watching it, and then he started really watching it with her, fell in love with it, and he's a very particular movie and show watcher. Like, he likes very specific things and he's very like strong with his opinions, but I had a feeling that he was going to like it, and he did. He loved it, and I even think one part of it near the end made him emotional, and I think that says a lot. Anyway, so just to convince you that even when people, like, they don't like reading at all, they don't really like graphic novels or anything, but even my sister and her fiance loved it. So I'm trying to convince everybody to please read and watch Heartstopper, especially so that we can get a season 2. Oh my goodness. I should say season 1 has volume 1 and 2. Season 1 is volume 1 and 2 because volume 1 ends where the 3rd episode ends, and then the rest is the 2nd volume. It's 8 episodes. They're about 25 minutes long. I wish they were longer, but they are the perfect length. I think that they even added more than is in the graphic novels. I keep rewatching it and rewatching it. I think I'm on like my 5th or 6th rewatch now because it makes me so happy, and all I want is Heartstopper to be in my eyeballs, in my brain, in my heart, and just everywhere because it just makes me so happy. Anyway, what is Heartstopper about? Heartstopper is about this friendship between these two boys, Charlie and Nick. In the first volume, we have Charlie, who was recently outed as gay, and he went through the previous year of where volume 1 begins. He was bullied a lot, but then he kind of gets past that. People accept him a bit more, but there is still some bullying, of course. The way that Alice Oseman takes the LGBT plus community and represents it in her works is stunning, and she does it in a way that is not done enough, and that is in a positive way. I think a lot of LGBT plus literature and TV shows and movies and media in general tends to be very upsetting, tends to have sad endings, and I think that that's due to the history of the community itself and how it has evolved. For instance, I know everybody has been loving Song of Achilles, and that's based on ancient history, which has a very tragic ending, and so we have this canon of what LGBT plus literature is, but what I love is that Alice Oseman just is making it positive, and she's showing that LGBT plus people can have happiness and can have healthy relationships and can have what everybody else has because they are like everybody else. And what I love about her books as well is that everybody is represented in them. You will see yourself in her books in someone, and I think that that's so beautiful. So Heartstopper is about Nick and Charlie meeting, them creating this friendship. So Nick is a rugby lad. He is very popular. He's on the rugby team. He is seemingly straight. And this is Charlie, who is openly gay now, and them becoming friends and what that leads to. And figuring out life, figuring out love, figuring out your sexuality, relationships, friendships, family relationships. I think that it is absolutely perfect, and like I said, perfect is the only word that I can think of to describe Heartstopper. The art style is perfect. This is just Nick and Charlie. So this is the US edition, which the US edition is fully, it has full color, but the color is monochrome, this beautiful teal, and the UK editions, here is volume 4 that I actually just bought the other day. But this is the UK edition. The UK edition, I'll just show you really quick, is all grayscale and black and white. But they do include a few extra material, which I'm not sure if the US publications do as well. I have a massive crush on Nick Nelson. And it's a little ridiculous. That's Nick. And the actor that plays Nick is Kit Connor. Huge crush on him. He's like 6 years younger than me. I'm really concerned about my crush. But he is just perfect. And I think that they casted the show so well. I would not change any of the actors. What I love is that the actors are actually teenagers, which is so rare as well, because I think we have so much unrealistic depictions of high school. Like, I love the show Euphoria, but that is so unrealistic to my experience, at least in high school. Maybe there are high schools like that, but I think it's so unrealistic. Also, Sex Education, I think, is like a raunchier version of Heartstopper, if that makes any sense. I love Sex Education as well, but Heartstopper is just pure joy. It is just pure happiness. And also, I think, anyway, my point was, in Euphoria and in Sex Education, the actors that portray teenagers are much older than the characters that they're playing, to the point where it's not as believable. And what I love as well is that I didn't know any of these actors besides Kit Connor. I knew Kit Connor, who played Nick Nelson, from Rocket Man, because he plays young Elton John, but that's the only thing that I knew him from. The actor that plays Charlie, his name is Joe Locke. This was his first role, and he just is Charlie. And Kit Connor just is Nick. So one of the many things I've been doing is I've been on social media, on Pinterest, looking at all of the memes and everything that everybody's saying. Netflix UK has been making amazing memes as well, and just following the Heartstopper TV, Instagram, following Alice Oseman on Instagram, her art account. I wanna talk about Heartstopper forever to everyone, and just want everyone to watch it and love it. The soundtrack to the TV show was exceptional. It was perfect. And I just saw today that the sales in these songs, the charts, have gone up immensely just from the release of Heartstopper, because the soundtrack is perfect. They match the storyline beautifully. And then another way that Heartstopper has been infiltrating my life in the best way possible is through the things I have been buying. Does that make any sense? It will. I will explain myself. The first thing that I bought was because of Charlie and Nick. I will show you one picture and it will explain everything. Okay, so this is from volume 4. This doesn't spoil anything, but this image will explain, it will just show you what I bought. So I bought myself a pair of black Vans to match Nick and a pair of white high-top Converse to match Charlie. So Nick always wears black Vans, Charlie always wears white high-top Converse, and I have been wanting a pair of white high-top Converse and black Vans for years, and I just for some reason never bought them for myself. And I was like, you know what? Now is the time. it is now. The time is now, and I'm going to do it. So now I have a new pair of black Vans. I customized a pair of Converse on the Converse website, so I'm not going to be getting those for a little while, but that was so much fun to do. And then the next thing that I bought, it is on Charlie. This is the 3rd volume, and that is a Konkin backpack. I have seen everybody wearing these backpacks, especially because I went to art school in New York City, and they seem to be a very art student reader accessory. I've just seen a lot of people that read and do art wearing these backpacks, and I thought, my identity is reading and art, so why don't I have one of these backpacks? I had an old backpack that I've been using just as a bag to carry around with me whenever I go anywhere. I like using a backpack just because having a shoulder bag, unless it's a tote bag, can be kind of annoying. This reading wrap-up kind of went in a polar opposite direction, but I hope you don't mind. Anyway, so I really wanted to get a new backpack, and I was talking to my friend Emma, and she has 2 Konkin backpacks. She has a bigger one and a smaller one, and I really wanted a smaller one just to use as a purse, as a bag. I was like, you know what? Because of Charlie, now is the time. And also another thing that I want to say is, like I said, the US editions, I love them so much because the paper quality is perfect. It's nice and thick, and this doesn't spoil anything really. So you can see the color tones are this beautiful teal. So you can see like the different tones of blue. Anyway, that is one of my favorite colors, if not my favorite color. I wear that teal blue because my 2 favorite colors are blue and green. Together, it makes heaven. Anyway, and in the show, Charlie has a teal blue Konkin backpack, and I thought, I need one. So I bought one. So here it is. I am obsessed with it. It came today. I am so excited, and it's made out of all recycled material. It has a bunch of pockets. I have heard from many people that have these bags that they last forever. My battery just died, so I had to wait for it to be charged a little bit, and I already started editing this video so that I could get it up as soon as possible. And my Heartstopper rant is so long, so I apologize. If you have lasted for this long in the video, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Please watch Heartstopper. Anyway, about this bag, I am just so happy that I got it, and perfect size. It's my favorite color. This color reminds me of Heartstopper. This bag will remind me of Charlie, and I am just so happy to now own it, and I can't wait to wear it around and fill it with all of my random things. And I feel like I am officially an art nerd, a book nerd, and a Heartstopper mega fan by getting this bag. And I'm very excited. So anyway, that is my really long ramble and April wrap-up. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Let me know. I would love to know what you read in April, and if you have read and loved any of these books, if any of them sound interesting to you, recommend me books. Have you watched Heartstopper? #1 question. I would love to know if you love Heartstopper as well, and all the books that you read in April, or even the books that you're excited to read maybe in May. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you are having a fantastic day reading some amazing books, and I will see you soon in another video. Happy reading.